Pokemon TCG Pocket continues to add new cards at a blistering pace, and we just got word of a new upcoming set. I'm Jeff from InThirdPerson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the upcoming Extradimensional Crisis set. Pokemon just dropped the trailer on their channel, and we do know that it's going to be a single pack set, so it's just this Buzzwole art, and you don't have to open up different packs to try and get all the cards. This is a mini set like Mythical Island. And this one is coming out on Thursday, May 29th. I'm actually going to start this roundup with some of the support cards and support Pokemon, just to kind of give some extra context for the Ultra Beasts that we are going to look at later. And the first we're going to look at is Lusamine, where it says you can only use this card if your opponent has gotten at least 1 point, and you get to choose one of your Ultra Beasts and attach 2 random energy from your discard pile to that Pokemon. So regardless of what the costs are on these Pokemon, towards the mid to late game, you can power them up very quickly if you have a Lusamine handy. Celesteela might not be the fan favorite Ultra Beast, but it does have the amazing ability Ultra Thrusters, where once during your turn, you may switch your active Ultra Beast with one of your benched Ultra Beasts, giving you a lot of flexibility and mobility, and I think this is going to be a card that sees a lot of play in Ultra Beast specific decks because free retreat is absolutely nuts. The first EX we're going to look at here is Guzzlord. It is a basic dark Pokemon with a whopping 170 HP, making it, I think, the biggest basic we've ever seen in Pocket. It's got 2 attacks. The second attack is not so hot. Tyrannical Hole for 3 dark and a colorless is 120 damage. And even if we factor in the Lusamine, it's still kind of underwhelming for the amount of energy that it takes, but that first attack is nuts. 2 colorless energy, Grindcore does 30 damage, and flip a coin until you get tails. For each heads, discard a random energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, this isn't going to work all the time. There will be times you just hit tails and nothing happens. There will be times where you're going to hit heads a whole bunch and basically force your opponent to not play the game for a while, at which point maybe they scoop, maybe you actually get in enough damage to knock them out. I'm not sure this is going to be a game-ending sort of card in the sense that, like, you're probably not going to chip them away 30 until they actually lose. I could see this being something your opponent like rage quits to, but keep in mind here, it only discards energy off the active Pokemon. So if your opponent can adjust their strategy and power up their Pokemon on the bench, you could be in big trouble. Also worth noting here, it is colorless energy for this attack, so theoretically you could splash this into any deck. Now, the problem is it's got 4 retreat, and you're going to have to run the Celesteela in order to retreat that, at least for free, but then you have to switch it with another Ultra Beast. If you were to play something like Leaf, you still have to cough up 2 energy, so it's not ideal to just splash this into everything, but the fact that it is colorless does make it potentially a splashable option. Buzzwole EX is a grass Pokemon basic with 140 HP, and it's got 2 attacks for 2 colorless energy. Punch does 30 damage, and then Big Beat for 2 grass and a colorless does 120 damage, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Big Beat. Now, 2 energy for 30 is not great. However, we do have a ton of grass support, including Erica for healing, and then we also have the Leaf Cape as well, and we could keep this alive so that eventually we get to the 120 and are cracking skulls with that big attack. On top of that, we do have the Celesteela. You maybe switch between 2 Buzzwoles so that you are still swinging for a relatively consistent 120 once you get set up. Maybe we even throw Superior back in so we can power this up a little faster, especially now that we have Rare Candy and could potentially be cracking for 120 with only 2 energy. In that scenario, for 2 energy, swinging for 120 as early as turn 2, while also having all of the healing that grass has, Buzzwole could have potential. Tapu Koko EX is a basic lightning type Pokemon with 2 attacks. Plasma Hurricane for 1 lightning energy does 20 damage, and you take a lightning energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. From there, you can Mach Bolt for 2 lightning and a colorless and do 90 damage. Very fast attacker by your second or third turn. With your second attack, you are doing 90 damage, which is okay, but being able to power itself up is pretty nice, and you could potentially use this as a way of getting some initial chip damage, and then you switch into whatever you really want to attack with, and then don that energy up. This is okay. I'm curious to see how well, like 90 kind of feels like maybe it's not quite enough, but you are powering this up a little faster thanks to that Plasma Hurricane attack. Ultra Necrozma EX is a promo card as noted by the stamp, basic dragon type Pokemon with 150 HP, and it's got 2 attacks, Photon Claw for 3 colorless energy for 60 damage, that's not good, and Shoegaze for 2 psychic and 2 metal energy, does 120 damage, and you discard the top 5 cards of each player's deck. Now, the cost of this is absolutely ridiculous, and we do have to keep in mind that we can power this up a little faster with Lusamine, but then you have to have a deck that runs psychic and metal energy, and 120 damage is still not great for 4 energy on top of having to have split energy. Discarding the top 5 cards of each player's deck is diabolical though. Nihilego is not a great attacker. For a dark and colorless energy, you do 30 damage and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. However, the ability, aptly named More Poison, is great. Your opponent's active Pokemon takes plus 10 damage from being poison. So when we think about some of the options for getting poison on there, whether it is Poison Barb or Grafaiai, or you're playing a deck with like Clodsire EX or something like that, poison could become even more of a threat going forward. We have 2 versions of Poipole. We've got the focus on the promo one because I've got a little bit better of a screenshot here, but we do have the regular art on the left. Basic Pokemon, 60 HP, and the attack 2-step for Dark Energy does 20 damage for each heads you flip, and you flip 2 coins to see what you get. Not a great attack, but we're really playing it for its evolution, Naganadel, where it's got the Electro House attack for 1 Dark Energy does 40 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. If you've got the Nihilego on your bench doing extra poison as well, this can potentially add up. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough or if this is going to be the best attacker for that style of poison deck, but it is an option. Blacephalon is a basic fire type Pokemon with 100 HP, and for 2 fire and a colorless, Beat Punk does 130 damage, and this Pokemon also does 70 damage to itself. Now 70 to yourself is a lot, especially since you've only got 100 HP. Maybe you're swinging into a Rocky Helmet, at which point you're taking 90 damage on that, but 130 damage is a lot, whether you are taking out a 2-prize Pokemon or doing serious damage to a 2-prize Pokemon. And on top of that, this feels like one of the best targets for Lusamine, where you can get that fire energy back from the discard pile to power this up very quickly in the mid to late game. Zeraora's only attack, Lightning Claw, is a little underwhelming. 2 lightning for 50 damage, but it does have the ability Thunderclap Flash, where at the end of your first turn, take a lightning energy from your energy zone and attach it to this Pokemon. So turn 1 going first, you use the Thunderclap Flash to power it up. Turn 2, you are swinging for 50, giving you a little more momentum. In that context, it's not bad. You could also use this to potentially power up something quicker. You hard retreat into something else, and then you don that energy up to that attacker so they have 2 instead of Zeraora having 2. I don't know. I don't necessarily hate it, but I don't love it either. Shiinotic is a stage 1 psychic Pokemon with 90 HP. Its attack cost is colorless, so you could splash that into anything you want. You're probably not attacking with this, but I do see a use for this Illuminate ability, where once during your turn, you may pull a random Pokemon from your deck into your hand. Now, having basically a not a Pokemon communication, but an extra way to pull Pokemon out of your deck is awesome, and I can see a lot of decks wanting to use this, but I don't think you can run this in a thick count, like maybe a 1-1 at best, but at which point it's going to be harder to set up. But I think this ability is so good. Being able to find Pokemon, especially evolution Pokemon, is going to be wonderful, especially for stage 2 decks where you're getting red carded and Mars like crazy. Shiinotic gives you at least 1 more steady option on the bench to grab your Pokemon. Pheromosa is a basic grass Pokemon with 70 HP, and its Jump Blues attack for 1 grass energy does 20 damage and 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Now, we do have Lurantis, which is 20 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon, but that is an evolution Pokemon versus Pheromosa, where you can just do this right away and you can hit 2 targets. It's not as many as Lurantis, but I think more often than not, Pheromosa is going to be better just because it's a basic and you can get this rolling quickly and more consistently. Type Null is a basic colorless Pokemon with 80 HP, and its attack for a colorless Quick Blow does 20 damage, and Flip a Coin. If heads, this attack does 20 more damage. I know it's splashable and anything, but like I just don't think this attack is good enough, especially 40 on a coin flip. No. This adorable Rowlet has the attack Fury Attack, where for 1 grass energy, you flip 3 coins and this attack does 10 damage for each heads. I don't think this is better than either of the Rowlets we have so far in the game, so I don't see this getting much play at all. Stakataka is a basic metal Pokemon with 110 HP, and it's got 2 attacks. Brass Rock for a metal and colorless does 40 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes minus 20 damage from attacks. This feels a little underwhelming. Like, it's gonna take you some time to get the 2, like you're attacking at earliest turn 3, at which point your opponent could be set up way better than you are right now. I'm not sure this attack is worth it. Xurkitree is a basic lightning Pokemon with 100 HP, and it has the attack Electronica, where for a lightning and 2 colorless, you do 60 damage and your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. I don't like the idea of powering this up in the early game with manual attachments. It's just too slow and not doing enough damage. But in the mid game with Lusamine, if you can power this up in one go, basically, this becomes better. I'm still not sure if it's enough. 60 is a little underwhelming, but there will be times where your opponent just flips tails on confusion a whole bunch and doesn't swing, and that might be enough to turn the tables. Kartana is a grass Pokemon with 60 HP, and it's got the attack Thrash Metal for 1 grass energy, does 40 damage. It's basically a grass version of Farfetch'd, so if you were playing Farfetch'd still in a grass deck, you can now play this instead so that you can hit certain decks for grass weakness. Alolan Diglett has the attack Happen to Headbutt for a metal energy, 40 damage, and flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing. 40 on a coin flip is bad, but this is probably a precursor to an Alolan Dugtrio, which we have not seen yet. By the way, Alolan Dugtrio, I love that Pokemon with like the long blonde hair. And that's everything we know about Extradimensional Crisis so far. The set's coming out again on May 29th, and I'm sure more cards will be leaked in the coming days, and I'll try my best to cover those as they come out. Personally, I really hope, like, because of the Alolan starters, we got a Decidueye and we got an Incineroar. I'm really hoping for a Primarina EX because Popplio is one of my favorite Pokemon. I've always loved this one. I never understood the hate for this one. I think Popplio and Primarina is like an absolute diva. One of my favorite Pokemon. And Popplio is just so cute. So Popplio stands. Hit me up in the comments. And what are you most excited for in the set that you've seen so far? I'm very curious about Guzzlord EX to see if that experiment actually works, but I kind of am not looking forward to playing against it. But playing it as a troll could be fun. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at InThirdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at InThirdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website InThirdPerson.com for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.